When you log into Windows 10, you have two different options as to what type of account you can log in using. So the first option, the one that I use, is that I log in using a Microsoft account. Now, a Microsoft account is free. Essentially, it is just an email address that is associated with Microsoft and that Microsoft uses to save your personal data. Sort of like having a Gmail account. If you have a Gmail account, all of your Google Plus account, your photos, your YouTube channel, all those things are tied to that same Gmail email address, and that enables Google to save that information on you. Now, some may view this as an invasion of privacy, but what it's really there for is not necessarily to steal your data, quote unquote, but rather to have some way that Microsoft or Google, in the case of Gmail, to store that data so that it's easier for you to access. So like in the case of Gmail, all these different services are tied to your Gmail account, and that means that you only need to remember one email address and one password to access all of that information. So similarly, when you log into Windows 10 using a Microsoft account, all of these different services from Microsoft that you may have used, Skype, OneDrive, maybe your Outlook email address, OneDrive photo syncing, all of these things happen automatically. You don't have to set them up separately. That also gives you access to Cortana. So Cortana is a virtual voice assistant, much like Google Now and Siri. And in order for Microsoft to be able to sync all of that data that you type into Cortana, if you maybe use it to set reminders, set calendar appointments, send emails, things like that, Microsoft needs to know who you are in order for all that to be available. So when you sign into Windows 10 using a Microsoft account, you get access to those niceties, those features that make Windows 10 just a little bit easier to use. Now, using a Microsoft account is not at all a necessity. It is not something that Microsoft forces you to do in Windows 10, but it is the default option and it does make things easier. So now that we've discussed what a Microsoft account is, what is the difference between signing in using a Microsoft account and signing in using a local account? Well, with a local account, all of your data in that system doesn't go anywhere. It stays right there on that one PC. And that means if you sign into another PC, none of your data from the other PCs is going to sync at all. So whereas your certain settings could sync if you had signed in with a Microsoft account, your search history with Cortana, your calendar appointments, your OneDrive, your Outlook, email and calendar, all of those things would sync up automatically if you signed in using a Microsoft account. Signing in using a local account, all of that data just stays right there on that one simple single machine. So if you don't use Windows 10 at home and at work and maybe on your phone and tablet and desktop and Xbox One, if you're only using Windows 10 on one machine and that's it, a local account will work just fine, and it won't really add any nice features to use a Microsoft account instead. So if you only use Windows 10 on one machine and you don't use any Microsoft services anywhere else in your life, using a local account will work just fine. However, if you use another device, whether it's Windows or not, and you do use Microsoft's services such as Outlook, email or Outlook calendar, or Xbox or OneDrive photo syncing, things like that, using the Microsoft account will be easier for you. Now, one major deterrent to using a Microsoft account is if you are really concerned about privacy. So Microsoft is a trustworthy company. They don't have a record of stealing people's information and using it to harm them in some way. But that said, it doesn't really matter how powerful or smart a company is or how trustworthy they are, because it is always possible. There's no such thing as a server that is unhackable. So although Microsoft does a lot to keep that data secure, if somebody did want to get access to it, in all likelihood, if there was enough of an effort, they would be able to gain access to that.